So, I finally made the plunge. I transferred all of my files and games to a Linux PC, finally committing to giving Linux a shot at becoming my main operating system in an attempt to fully ditch Windows. And some of you may be asking,
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
well, in this video, we're going to find out. This is probably going to be a long ride, so grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So, why did I switch over to Linux in the first place? Well, first of all, I've been having a lot of issues with Windows specifically. I feel like Linux is a much better operating system in terms of its customization, its configuration. It's less prone to malware, it's open source, and it's more flexible. I'll go into detail about this later, but first let's talk about my Windows experience. Starting with Windows XP. This is not my first Windows operating system. I believe my first Windows operating system was Windows Me, if y'all remember that. Yeah. But I would say the first real experience that I've had with Windows was Windows XP. And I feel like Windows XP was a great operating system. It's nice and clean, it's nice and simple. Even though it had a little bit of bloatware, as you can see, the MSN Explorer or whatever, it was a nice clean system that it just worked. The main point of an operating system is to manage your files and to utilize your programs. That's it. That's what I feel like an operating system should be, to operate your programs and to manage your files. That's it. That's all that an operating system should be. And Windows XP was great at that, But let's go ahead and move on a little bit forward. Windows Vista, it was okay, but I think it tried to utilize it in a sense. It's like a coat of paint over Windows XP, and the paint was ugly. It's like they painted it with shit, which hindered a lot of the system performance. Windows XP versus Windows Vista. If you're playing games, the games would run faster on Windows XP than they would on Vista, because Vista has a lot of unnecessary effects and stuff like that. Windows 7 kind of got a little bit of an overhaul. It feels like Windows XP supercharged. Windows 7 was pretty great. It was a clean operating system. It was very simple, nice to use. No problems here. But then we get to Windows 8. Now this is where it starts going downhill. As you can see, they completely overhauled the user interface because tablets started getting viral. They started rising and surging and stuff, and then Windows wanted to be like a tablet, which hindered the user experience of what a PC should be, and that is managing your files and utilizing your programs. And this system, I feel like you can't do that. It's trying to put so much stuff in your face that where can you find your files? Where can you find your programs? All this other stuff that's unnecessary: sports, news, weather, finance, man. Look at all this stuff that it's trying to be. It's trying to be something that it shouldn't be. A PC should be your personal computer. That's what a PC stands for. A personal computer. Your personal computer. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be an advertisement block on your face. It should be personalized to how you like it. Windows 8 was bad, yeah. They tried to fix it with Windows 8.1, but then Windows 10 came along, and this is what kind of Windows 8 should have been, But Windows 10 is not that bad in a sense, but it got bloated like heck. They started adding a lot more adware and a lot more bloatware. As you can see in this picture, they're shoving different applications, suggestions, they're adding different things with the live tiles, all this stuff that you don't need. It's trying to suggest things to you and add all this extra stuff in there, which you don't need. You don't need any of that stuff. Look, they added a search bar on the taskbar on the bottom there. They added Cortana, all this extra stuff, you know what I mean? But let's go ahead and switch over to Windows 11. Now this is where things really took a turn. Now they're trying to mix Windows 8 with Windows 10. And basically, this is kind of like a mix of Windows 8 and Windows 10 had a baby. You know, adding more recommendations, more suggestions. And not only that, with Windows 11, managing your files is a lot worse than ever before now. Because if you try to search for a file that's on your PC, you type it in the search bar, and guess what happens? It brings up a web search. You press enter and it'll open up a browser for what you're searching for when you're trying to look for a file on your computer. And that really pissed me off when they started doing that shit. I started hating Windows even more because when they brought this shit up. Another thing that they started doing is forcing people to create online user accounts to create a user account for your PC. What the fuck? What the hell are they doing here? Out of all the things that Microsoft did, I think this is the worst thing that they have ever done. This is what really pushed me over to moving over to Linux. Let me tell you why. Because guess what happens when you don't have internet or you mess with the BIOS settings on your PC? You mess with the BIOS settings or your internet's messed up, guess what happens? Oops, something went wrong and your PIN isn't available. Click to set up your PIN again. Now your PC, you are locked out of your PC because you didn't enter the right PIN or something is wrong with the system. You know your PIN number is right. You know your password is correct. But because it's connected to the internet, it's connected to a Microsoft account that you have to be connected online to. Now you can't access your files on your own PC. Microsoft locked you out of your PC because of this bullshit. And I remember I was messing with some BIOS settings. You know what? Let me see if I could change some BIOS settings. And then this thing popped up and it locked me out of my PC. And from that point, I was like, oh, hell no. This is what pushed me over to Linux. This thing right here. And I was already planning to switch over to Linux because of this shit. So I already have a laptop that I started using Linux Mint on. Ever since they started doing this online stuff, I migrated all of my stuff to my laptop, all my files, because I didn't want to get locked out of my PC because Microsoft was being stupid and creating these online accounts just to access my files. So that is when I switched my laptop permanently over to Linux. But I still was using Windows on my main PC. So at this point, I was using Windows and Linux at the same time. Using Windows on my main PC and using Linux on my laptop to manage all of my files. But I still needed to use my programs on Windows, unfortunately. But something happened that was the last straw for me, was the final tipping point that Microsoft did. Windows Copilot PCs. When I heard the news of this Copilot PCs and also the feature called Recall, where they basically gonna add spyware to your computer now. First they added adware, they added more bloatware, and now they're adding spyware to your computer. That was the last straw. It's like, okay, I gotta get rid of Windows. I gotta get the frick out of here, man. You know, this is way too much, way too much. I'm finally making the commitment to switching fully onto Linux. So I have a separate drive now on my desktop computer where I have Linux Mint on both my laptop and my desktop now. And I'm fully utilizing all of my applications on Linux. There's only a few applications that I'm missing. So right now I'm using my Windows boot drive. And as you can see, This is empty like a motherfucker. I have it disconnected as well because the end of life is gonna happen next year, so I'm gonna utilize the internet until then, until the Windows end of life comes, and then I'm gonna fully disconnect from the internet on this drive here. So I have this drive on a 500 gig hard drive, Windows installed there, and then I have a separate drive for transferring files. So let's say if I want to edit videos in DaVinci Resolve, then I can just create a drive, an NTFS drive that's compatible with both Linux and Windows, and I can record my videos and save it on this drive, and then I can edit it in Windows using DaVinci Resolve. But the only reason I'm still using Windows is because of these two programs right here. So VCFace is one of the programs that I want to keep using as a content creator. They do have VCFace is compatible on Linux, but the motion tracking is not compatible yet. You can use OpenCFace, but I'm still having issues with the configuration of that, and I'm not able to get it working right yet. So I'm still working out those kinks. Once I do, I can finally get rid of this program and stick with Linux. And also, with DaVinci Resolve, they also have DaVinci Resolve compatible with Linux as well. So once I fully learn how to fix this issue with VCFace and fully learn how to use DaVinci Resolve, then I can finally ditch Windows permanently. So these are the solutions that I plan on using for the time being. You know, my full plan is to get rid of Windows completely. That's my full goal of using this. But until then, I'm going to keep this Windows drive just in case if maybe there's some applications that I can only use in Windows. I can have an offline drive that's permanently offline and utilize applications in Windows here. But yeah, this is my Windows drive, and this is the only reason why I have Windows right now. But all of my files, all of my games, all of my applications are on a Linux drive. So let's go ahead and switch over to my Linux machine, and I'll give you guys a little tour. I did want to mention though, like I said earlier, my VCFace is not configured on Linux yet, so I'm going to be using a PNG VTuber model within OBS from an OBS plugin. So just keep that in mind. So here we go, guys. Here we go. Okay, so welcome to my Linux system here. Now for this, as you can see, I can't use my 3D model just yet, but I do want to give you a little tour of my system here. So let me get the system set up here. So as you can see, actually, let me go ahead and show you OBS too. You know what? Why not? I do plan on using OBS for video capture for making videos, but I also plan on doing a little bit of streaming as well. But yeah, let me go ahead and show you a little tour of my system here. I will show you a few tricks that I learned as well. Maybe in a separate video, I might make a few tweaks and show you guys how I do it. But I can run OBS just fine. I have large language models on here. I have LM Studio, localized AI chatbot that you can use offline. It'll give you answers, and like I said, what's the terminal command to display information. Let's go ahead and show you. You can all run this offline. This is what I have currently running Linux Mint 21.3, the Cinnamon desktop environment. This is the Ubuntu based version, it's not the Debian version. CPU is AMD Ryzen 9 5950X with an NVIDIA 4070 Super. I know people say the AMD NVIDIA, I'm not, NVIDIA works just fine for me. So the reason why I like NVIDIA is because of the AI models. But yeah, this is one of the things I like to use. So I like to run AI models every now and then. I also have an image generator here as well, but if you guys are more interested in the AI models, I did make a video about it. So I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments if you guys are interested in watching that. So, but yeah, I have AI models here, and then I also have my games on a separate drive here. So we have Steam, we have our emulators. For those of you who don't know much about Linux, the best comparison that I can give you is that imagine Android phone making a computer. Basically, this is like an Android computer. You know how there's Mac computers, Apple computers? This is like, Linux is like the Android computer. They have their own software store through the software manager. All of these are free, by the way, so you don't have to worry about pricing and shit. Some of them may cost money, or may have premium editions, but for the most part, all of these applications are free. And that's what I love about Linux, is it's free and it's open source. You know, with trusted open source software. And another thing that I like is just the emulators. The emulators are all in here. I have Dolphin, SNES, GBA, DuckStation, Melon DS, Nestopia, PCSX2, Mupin, Rosales Mupin, GUI. We have Ryujinx and Lime 3DS, which is a fork of Citra. And these are great. I love these, man. These are freaking fantastic how they have the emulators on here all easily, and you can install it easily. Wait, I think I'm missing one thing here. Actually, a matter of fact, I'm gonna download something right now that I forgot to install in here. I think I'm missing it. Yeah, we're missing a Pinball Space Cadet. I can't believe, I thought I installed this already, but I don't know why I didn't install it. But if you played on Windows XP, you remember this game. You will remember this game. But yeah, you got Space Cadet too, so you can download that and put it on here. Space Cadet Pinball, there you go. I remember there's other games on here you can add on there too. But let's go ahead and look at Steam real quick. You have basically the full thing. You don't even need Windows anymore. Steam Proton changed everything. So because the work that Steam did on the Steam Deck and the works they did on Proton, games are all compatible now. I can play my full library of games. Forza Horizon 5, it does have a little bit of issues with certain effects, like the particle effect. If you put that low, you can play the game without crashing. You can play Red Dead, you can play Dirt Rally, you can play all of these games. I haven't tested all of them yet, but I think so far most of them I haven't had any issues with. I think out of all of my games, let me see, how many games do I have? I have 221 games. And out of all of these games, I can probably only think of maybe 3 games that don't work out of 221 games. That's crazy. And the only games that you probably won't be able to play is the ones with anti-cheat. Like I think Valorant, League of Legends is another one I think has issues. And you're not really restricted to playing games on Steam only. You can download things like Lutris. For me, I only really play Steam games, but if you do have other game launchers like the Epic Game Launcher, you can download different launchers such as the Epic Game Store. You can download Battle.net. You can download different things and get your games to run on Linux. So yeah, there's other ways to work around it. Unfortunately, you got to work around it. That's the only bad part I would say about Linux, is because it's not really Linux's fault. It's more so the developers of these applications and launchers, these games. They don't fully support Linux, so you got to work a little bit extra to get things to work. At the fault of the developers, the game developers, not necessarily. It's not the fault of Linux. So you got to do like a little bit of tweaking to get things to work right on Linux. But overall, my experience has been fantastic with Linux. I think one of the things that I like the most I like the performance compared to Windows. See, on a Windows machine, it's so bloated with adware and bloatware and all that stuff that starting up the PC takes longer and shutting down the PC takes longer, and just utilizing the programs in general. When you launch a program, Forza Horizon 5, this game tends to crash if with certain effects. I don't care if the game has a little bit of problems with it, or if I have to run the game at lower graphic settings. What I really care about is not using Windows anymore. Like, if I can play a game and not use Windows anymore, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean? You can still play some of your favorite games, and Forza Horizon 5 is a game that I really enjoy playing as well. I don't play it every day because there's a lot of games that I do like to play as well. I like to play Final Fantasy 14. I'm playing terribly here, hold on. Focus on the drift. Focus on the drift. As long as I can drift in this game, that's what helps me relax. I like drifting in this game because it helps me relax. It's just a fun thing to do in this game. And I know that even though the game is not as stable as it is on Windows, I have full faith that the Valve team will make it work, you know, in the future. They've done a lot of progress ever since the Steam Deck released, and I have full faith in Steam to make a solution that'll help fix the problems that some of these games might have. There's a graphics setting that you can minimalize. You can't turn it off per se, but you can leave it on the low setting and it won't have any issues. And that's this particle effects quality. You bump this up and it will crash. It will crash in Linux, unfortunately. I haven't tested the other settings yet. I will go one by one eventually to see which graphics crash and which ones don't. But so far, I feel like at least the important ones work. You know, they just work out of the box. So that's how I have it set up on here, and it works fine. It's perfectly fine for me. It's perfectly fine for me. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the flexibility of Linux. You can also add little desktop applets if you want. I like to have the GPU utilization, the VRAM, the CPU utilization, and the system RAM. So I like to have, you can color code it, change the colors, whatever. I like to have it on here, and you can lock it in place too as well, so you won't accidentally grab it or, you know, something like that. You can have Word documents, create Word documents with OpenOffice. You don't need Microsoft Office. You can edit audio using Audacity. You know, you have OBS Studio to record your gameplay. But one of the things I like about Linux in particular is Time Shift. It's a backup utility software that comes pre-installed on Linux Mint. So it's a backup utility software where you can back up your home system files, which on Linux is called the root directory. And you can also back up your personal files on the home directory if you wanted to. You can back up your whole system this way. But I just like to back up the root directory for any problems or anything like that. The root directory will pretty much solve a lot of problems. But if you want to be safe, you can do the hidden only, or you can do a whole system backup if you wanted to. And having these snapshots is really helpful because let's say if you start experimenting with your system and you're adding different configurations to your system, you can easily restore your system back to the way it was before. Windows is a little bit more complicated. The Time Shift I feel like is more user friendly, and it's much more accessible on Linux than it is Windows, I feel. But yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to mention. But overall, I think Linux is a better operating system for me, and hopefully we'll see how it goes from here. But hopefully I can fully ditch Windows in the future and finally get rid of Windows. You know, ever since I was a technician, so back in the Windows 7 days, that's when I first got my experience with Linux using the recovery tools. And I gave Linux a chance every now and then. Because when I first went into college for computer science, that was in the Windows 7 days. But then after I graduated, I got exposed to Windows 8, and then it kind of pissed me off. Windows 8 pissed me off, and I gave Linux a shot. I installed it on my computer to see if I can get things to work, but gaming was still a struggle. OBS was a struggle, so I kind of gave up hope. It still wasn't time yet. So then Windows 8.1, then Windows 10 came out, and then I kind of stuck with Windows 10 for a little bit. I was still kind of pissed about the advertisements and the bloatware, so I gave Linux another shot again to see where Linux was at. Is it finally there? Is it finally there to switch? No, unfortunately it wasn't. It still wasn't there with the gaming, and it still wasn't there with some of the applications. And then finally when Windows 11 came out, Windows 11 came out, give it another chance. It still wasn't quite there. And now at the halfway point of Windows 11, Windows 12 is just around the corner, just before the release of Windows 12. And all this bullshit that happened, I finally made the commitment. And then Steam Deck released. The Steam Deck released, all this good news for Linux. Gaming is viable on Linux now. It's almost 100% viable. It's close enough. Gaming on Linux is close enough for me to make the switch fully. It's close enough for me to make the switch fully. I am going to be losing my 3D avatar on Linux, but that's why I have the offline Windows 10 drive for now. To make the closing statements, I'll turn it back over to 3D Leericle. So here we go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my system of Linux, my story of why I switched over to Linux, and all the stuff that I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully I can finally make that fully switch over to Linux. So once I get rid of these softwares here, once I finally learn how to move VCFace over to Linux and get OpenCFace to work, and once I get more comfortable with DaVinci Resolve, I'll install it on my Linux machine, and then I'll be finally fully get rid of Windows completely. I'm like 95% there. I'm like 95% there. So I'm almost there, guys. This time I have hope, because the Steam Deck and Valve Proton did a lot of work to get at least the games. At least the gaming is there. I feel like the gaming is there. I can finally get rid of Windows completely for gaming. But for content creation, I feel like I'm still a little bit clinging onto Windows, just a teeny bit. It's that small 5%. But once I get that stuff settled out, I'll finally be able to get rid of Windows completely. Wish me luck, guys. Wish me luck. I'm gonna need it. But anyways, I just wanted to share my experience with you guys to why I switched over to Linux in the first place, kind of sharing my experience with Linux and Windows. And I encourage you guys also as well to do some research and give Linux a chance if you want to. Windows is going into a bad future right now, and I don't want to be a part of it, to be honest. So that's why I made the commitment to switch to Linux this time. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more on my setup, on how I do OBS on Linux, or anything else in general, I would say I'll probably make another video, but I would say if it wasn't for AI in general, I would have never been able to do the switch. So I encourage you, if you guys are interested in learning Linux, if you are going to give it a chance, be sure to utilize AI and ask it questions. AI is your personal tech support for Linux. I recommend Google Gemini. Is a really great tool. It helped me so much in my transition to Linux, especially in the terminal commands. So yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.